right. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining me today. I will be conducting this webinar on emotional benefits today. I'll get started shortly. Actually, let me just give a brief introduction first. My name is Sierra Lutz. I am a senior consultant here at ZoomRx. Today, I'm going to share some information about emotional benefits through the lens of ZoomRx's brand builder solution and our proprietary FICURE framework. The goal of this series is to elevate the strategic impact of research insights. This is the last session of the series, and it'll focus on emotional benefits. Like I said, we'll focus on 5 areas today. Just to give a quick introduction to myself, so as I said, I'm a senior consultant here at ZoomRx. I actually got my start in the field of behavioral economics, but I've spent most of my career working on launch insights related to orphan drugs and have supported several successful brands from pre to post launch. So as I mentioned, today's conversation about emotional benefits is based on our brand builder solution for launch insights and our FICURE framework. As a quick overview, Brand Builder provides a custom roadmap for holistic pre-launch and post-launch brand insights. FICURE is our strategic lens on that roadmap that enables us to connect the dots across multiple projects and provide strategic recommendations for actionable research. We are also tech-driven and based in ZoomRx's proprietary technology, our community, and our AI solutions. Brand Builder is always customized for the individual needs of every brand that we work with, and the roadmap is customized based on budget, brand strategy, all those good things. And FICURE is our strategic framework for success in pharmaceutical brands. So as I said, I am here talking about the last dimension of FICURE today, but if you're not familiar, FICURE is an acronym for the 7 dimensions of a successful pharmaceutical brand. So we've seen that brands that can provide clear answers to these 7 questions are more successful. And so as insights professionals, it's our role to help them ask and answer these strategic questions. Today, we'll be focusing on the last dimension of emotional benefits. My colleagues have already covered the previous dimensions in prior webinars, which I believe you can find on ZoomRx's YouTube channel if you haven't gotten a chance to watch those yet. We've got some good content there. So the overarching question around emotional benefit research is applicable to a lot of project types ranging from pre-launch to post-launch. We've got opportunity assessment. So what are the unique and relevant emotional benefits for target patients and HCPs? Positioning, how can emotional benefits be defined and derived from clinical and functional benefits? Brand identity, which research aids in determining brand essence and personality to incorporate in strategic decisions? Creative concepts, so what emotional chords should a concept strike that will align with the existing brand essence? As well as message execution, so which messages and creative concepts are most compelling for HCPs and patients. Usually as insights professionals, we tend to think about emotional benefits questions as central to those project types. And today we're going to abstract away from specific research objectives or methodologies and focus on central strategic question that runs through many of these projects. That key question here being, what are the unique and relevant emotional benefits for target patients and HCPs? So emotional benefits are integral to all of these project types, your brand identities, positioning, messaging, message execution. And when brand teams use the term HCPs, the goal is typically to distinguish HCP promotional tactics from patient tactics. And sometimes the broad usage of that term HCPs can be misleading because, of course, HCPs are not a monolithic homogenous group. Rather, there's always going to be subgroups within that population, and it's important to identify and prioritize those subgroups. And as we think about strategic imperatives across brand teams that we work with, we see common themes in these different project types that you see here on the screen. So obviously, as insights professionals, we are working to ensure that our work is driving these strategic objectives. You may be wondering, why do we actually need to talk about emotional benefits in the context of pharmaceutical research? We would hope that our doctors are making decisions based purely on rational and functional benefits, right? But really, the most effective brands are those that can emotionally connect with people, and those emotions are a really big part of prescription decisions as well as our decisions in everyday life. They being emotions, connect us with things in the external world, enable us to identify what we value most. They also help us prioritize and choose among life's trade-offs. And ultimately, as I said, emotions drive decisions, and that includes prescription decisions. So talking a bit more about some of those project types that I've mentioned, in positioning, to define the emotional benefits of a brand, we need to understand the competitive set, of course, in order to differentiate our client's brand. And thinking of where that fits into a typical positioning statement, right? You would say something like, for HCPs, which is HCP target, and their patients, which is patient target, product X is the only uh, member of the competitive set that offers rational benefit so that emotional benefit. And in terms of success for a positioning project, good positioning should strike an emotional chord that's aligned with the brand's essence or the brand's personality. And I'll get into some tools that help us determine a brand's personality a little bit later on. When it comes to creative concepting, emotional benefits are paramount here, because brands are limited in what they can explicitly say. So concepts are often left to drive the brand's personality and its implied emotional benefits. When we think about messaging execution, this can be a myriad of things. It can be unbranded DSE messages, disease state education messages or websites. It can be CVAs or visual aids for physicians. And you really need to capture people's attention, and emotional resonance is a great way to do that. um, we want to quickly and concisely convey both rational and emotional benefits because, sales reps only have a certain amount of time with physicians, right? And there are so many other things vying for our attention. So we really want to drive home those rational and emotional benefits. And in research like this with message execution, we always want to come back to, what is this message or concept communicating? And we do this to ensure that the material is communicating the intended message. Like I've alluded to before, imagery is another great way to convey those emotional benefits, because, of course, brands are not able to explicitly communicate all of those rational benefits in the way that they might like to. Getting into some tools for how we assess a brand's personality, one of the things we can do is this brand personality audit. And in this particular example, something that we like to do is to ask consumers, whether that's the patient, the HCP, to map brands onto these Jungian archetypes. This gives us a baseline understanding of a brand's emotional reputation. So, for example, let's say that most physicians in a given study identify a client's brand personality as a hero or explorer type. This would indicate that a brand conjures up emotions such as maybe admiration and hope. Other tools that we use include this perceptual mapping and gap analysis. And as someone who started their career in behavioral economics, this is very near and dear to my heart, because emotional benefits are typically not things that are conscious that we're consciously thinking of. They're not always top of mind, and it makes them really, really difficult sometimes to evaluate using direct or explicit measures. Um, so with this latent association, if you've never read Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow, in that book he identifies two different ways of thinking, system one and system two. System two is your more effortful type of thinking. It's more associated with rational thinking. So it's the type of thinking you would need to engage in to solve complex problems. And as such, it drains a lot of energy. So as humans, our bodies are really good at conserving energy. And so it kind of keeps us in that system one thinking far more often than system two. System one thinking is more automatic and subconscious. So that's the type of thinking that's activated when you're engaging in a habitual behavior like brushing your teeth, driving to work, these types of things. And the types of things we tend not to think too hard about. And this is where emotions kind of tend to live. So as such, it's kind of difficult to assess those things. And one way that we can get at those latent emotions is through a simple, word association task to get at some of those subconscious feelings and thoughts that people might not be able to articulate very well if you were to ask them directly. Another way to uncover emotional associations is through biometric or even psychophysiological measures. So think heart rate, skin conductance, eye tracking. There's MRI tests that you can do. However, these methods are somewhat controversial. There's a relatively high margin of error and they're very expensive. Um, but yeah, ultimately, not everyone experiences emotions the same way. And so this is a less foolproof way of getting at those latent emotions and thoughts. So getting into some case studies related to emotional associations, a really, really good example of this is Viagra versus Cialis. So, they both have nearly identical rational benefits, but their articulation of those emotional benefits is radically different, like almost diametrically opposed. Um, we've seen Viagra positioned right as this sort of masculine-centric drug that's positioned to maximize sexual potency, whereas Cialis is more positioned as a tool to promote relational harmony between partners. Another case study, this one is related to a syndicated project we conducted around a few different IBD brands in the past. And here we're looking at how Entyvio embodies several different brand personalities. So some physicians envisioned Entyvio as kind of the hero archetype, which indicates feelings of admiration, hope toward that brand. Other HCPs felt like Entyvio was more of a sage or caregiver archetype. And these archetypes indicate feelings of confidence, of respect, some of those even warm, fuzzy feelings of trust in a reliable treatment. Uh, Still, other HCPs felt that Entyvio embodies the everyman archetype. It's ubiquitous, it's a widely used drug in the IBD space, and so they feel confident in prescribing it because of that ubiquity within the IBD space. So, yeah, evaluating a brand according to uh, these brand archetypes is a helpful starting point to evaluate whether the intended brand personality or the intended messaging is actually reflected in physicians' perceptions of that brand. Here we have another case study related to emotional benefits. This is associated with clinical outcomes for a chronic kidney disease medication. So we can see here there are some slight differences in emotional benefits for patients versus HCPs. Some similarities as well. So for patients and HCPs, there is this sense of anxiety relief in the fact that this drug that our client is promoting helps with steroid sparing. It helps them to avoid using steroids every time they have a flare up. So it has that emotional benefit. However, it doesn't necessarily inspire hope or optimism in patients, and it does actually provide a sense of pride and accomplishment in physicians. And so this is a really good example of the differences in emotional benefits that we see patients and HCPs experiencing. In terms of positioning, uh, in this instance with emotional benefits, this is something you kind of want to ladder into. So in this instance, our client wanted to market their asset based on its FDA approval status, its efficacy, and its relative tolerability. And this was for a psychiatric condition. So we dug further into those characteristics to uncover really the benefits of their asset for that target patient population. And we found that the main positives there were that it treats the root cause of the condition with fewer side effects, which is great. That's a great understanding. But we wanted to dig even further into why those benefits are so compelling. And we found out that HCPs associate treating the root cause with fewer side effects as being a more modern treatment that's a relatively easier sell to patients. And this ultimately led to the asset's unique emotional benefits of hope, confidence, and comfort. Yeah, so that was just kind of a brief overview of emotional benefits in strategic research. Please feel free to let me know of any questions you have in the box provided here. But yeah, if nothing comes up in the meantime, we sorry, my screen is not working with me. If you're interested in learning more about emotional benefit strategy or FICURE, we would love to invite you to collaborate in our FICURE tool pilot program. ZoomRx is developing this tool that synthesizes your team's hypotheses across each of these 7 dimensions, uncovers knowledge gaps, and provides a custom research plan to address those gaps. This tool is currently in development, so we're looking for partners to help us beta test. So if that's something you're interested in, please feel free to contact me. I'll leave up my email address on the end screen there. Um, yeah, and I'm not seeing any questions come up. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.